What's up, gearheads? It's Trev, and today at the garage we're going to be installing a motor mount lift kit. Now, the engine mount lift kit goes hand in hand with the body lift. First thing we're doing is the engine lift. The reason I'm doing that, I'm doing everything all at once. I'm going to split it up into two different episodes, but the reason I'm doing the engine lift first is simply because it'll be way easier to work on before lifting the body an inch. Why is it everybody with a diesel truck feels the need to just floor the gas everywhere they go? I bought a new engine mount kit from Daystar. It's a 1-inch lift, which is built into the new brackets. And we got polyurethane mounts that we need to press in. The passenger side is a little tight to reach, but I should be able to get in there nice and easy. I'll get the back bolt from underneath, front bolts right here, side bolts to loosen everything up, and then that should come out. The passenger side will be a little bit more complicated. Passenger side is easier to see in the engine bay, except to get the back bolt out, there's not enough space with this bracket. So what I may end up having to do is remove this entire bracket and then take the mount off, put the new mount on, and reinstall everything as one piece. There's no left or right with these mounts. They're both exactly the same. Actually, hopefully they're the same way with the factory ones. It might make it a lot easier to get things apart. What we're gonna do, put the bushing ends in. Simple enough, they just cap off on the ends. Alright, so I've got the linkage for the transfer case that goes to the shifter handle for the transfer case all disconnected. Got my radiator fan shroud disconnected. So now I'm going to do the driver's side first. 15 millimeter bolting the mount down and 18 millimeter holding the mount to the engine. I've got a jack underneath the engine with a block of wood in between the jack and the oil pan, putting just the slightest amount of pressure on the oil pan to support the engine. So now I'm going to get in here. I'm going to disconnect the mount from the engine first and then unbolt the mount from the frame. So like any good YouTuber and car enthusiast, before I started doing the install on my engine mount lift, I looked up a tutorial on YouTube. I found one, which is why I didn't remember it 100%. It was a little while ago that I watched it. But that's why I was saying, oh, I think I need to remove the bracket on this side. Well, it's the driver's side that you need to remove the bracket. If you look, I've got everything undone except the AC compressor gets in the way of that engine mount bolt coming all the way out. So it's looking like I'm going to have to unbolt the main bracket from the engine. And once I put everything back on, the trick I learned from that other video, when I put this all back together, I'm going to put that bolt in going the other direction. So if I ever need to service these things, I can just pull the bolt out and get right to them without an issue. And I need to undo this entire bracket. Now, by the way, would be a good time to clean out any mud from your engine block because it likes to collect in between the engine block and this plate. This plate is held on by 3 bolts. I'll show you underneath on the engine block. So you got 1, 2, 3. All the same length bolt, 15 millimeter. So now what I'm actually going to do is just bolt this right back on and then put the new mount in. And like I said, I'm actually going to insert the bolt that goes through the center in the opposite direction. And that should make it nice and serviceable. Nothing's tightened down yet, and as you can see, an inch makes a huge difference. So now I'm going to go loosen up the other side. And once the other side's loose, hopefully I should be able to jack the engine up high enough, hook everything back up. For those of you who don't have a snorkel tube running through your engine bay, this should actually be way more accessible. Now we're to the point where every time I pump the jack handle, I'm lifting the engine. There, this is coming. There we go. Again, this will be more accessible for most of you. This snorkel hose really gets in the way. Now I'm going to start the nut on the bottom of that mount, and then I'm just going to leave both mounts loose, jack up the engine until I can get the long bolts in through the middle, and then we'll tighten everything down. So here's a nice trick when you're working in a gravel driveway and you lose hardware. Keep a nice big magnet around. Found it! Okay, so after a little finagling and a little hammering, that's one new engine mount. Everything's loose. Here's the other one. So now I'm going to tighten everything up. And as you can see, well, maybe, I can definitely tell the engine is sitting higher. Should still fit under the hood just fine, but I'm not worried about that because I'm doing the body lift as well. But if you're only doing one or the other or both, doesn't matter. The reason you get your fan shroud loose is now you can see the engine's tipped back. It's hitting the fan shroud. If that were still attached to your radiator, bad news bears. So I'm going to tighten up these engine mounts, and then that just about finishes up the engine mount lift. I wanted to talk real quick, what are the pros and cons of an engine mount lift? So I raised the engine 1 inch. Pro to that, I don't have a transfer case drop kit, nor do I really want one. But I do have a 2-inch suspension lift. Now 2 inches is kind of pushing it. That's about your limits for no driveline correction at all. But I did notice after I put in that 2-inch lift kit, I did notice a little bit of driveline vibration. By lifting the engine up 1 inch, that actually angles everything back down and should correct the driveline angle for the drive shafts. So that's a definite pro. Another pro, my oil pan is 1 inch higher off the ground. Well, maybe not quite 1 inch because it's angled, but nevertheless, it still gives the oil pan a little more room. If you ever do a tummy tuck, that's part of it, is an engine mount lift. Get everything underneath just tucked up in the body better. The other pro is with the body lift that I'm going to do next, the engine mount lift makes it so that I don't have to install a transfer case linkage drop kit, and I also should not have to modify my radiator fan shroud. Like I said, going to tighten everything up now. Thanks for watching. Any questions on this, feel free to ask. I try to answer everybody's comments. Other than that, talk to you guys later.